All right, so it's Jocelyn Jovan here with Stormi Steele, the founder and CEO of Canvas Beauty brand, multi-million dollar brand, Black woman owned, here with us on Hip Hop and Enterprise. Thank you so much for being here, Stormi.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So the way I have this interview set up, I want to break it up into parts. I want to go into your journey. I have some questions for your business. Then, of course, we're going to touch on your motherhood because you've been very transparent about that. And then I have a little fun segment at the end called the True 100, where I just want you to keep it true, 100, honest, or you could skip.
Okay.
All right. So getting started on your journey, tell us about your journey from working as a hairstylist and going on to create your signature hair serum that helped you launch your company.
So my journey really started like before I was a hairstylist. That's when it all like came to me. I was in college and I was very suicidal. It was to the point where I was like, I'm about to get ready to graduate. I had about 27 credit hours left. No, it was like 24 credit hours left. And I was like, just didn't want to go into the field that I had been pursuing the whole time because like college was like forced upon me by my mother. I come from a small town. You go to college, you get a job, and everybody knows everything, yet they've really done nothing. So the closer I got to graduating, the more depressed I became. And then one night I just picked up my Bible and what I read brought me like a lot of peace. I can't remember what I read, but I ended up going to sleep and I woke up and I had this dream and I wrote everything down. I knew I was supposed to be a hairstylist, which was so strange because I didn't do hair at the time. I knew the name of my business. I knew my mission statement. And from that point on, I just began on that journey. I started doing things that made me feel good because that one dream and that one inkling of having a vision brought me peace. So from that very moment, I just started solely focusing on the things that brought me peace. So that led me to becoming a hairstylist. And then here I am, on this journey, always seeking peace, even if it doesn't make any sense to anybody, even if it doesn't make any sense to me, even if it seems like it's the wrong path to go down. If it felt good, I did it. And as a hairstylist, I wanted to create something for my clients because I focus on protective styling. So I was the girl who did a lot of, weave extensions, wigs, etc. And at the time, my hair was like not healthy, not pretty. And I was like, I want to make a product. And it was like on my soul heavily to create something that could help. And I started mixing things up in the kitchen. I would go to sleep and I would have these dreams about different ingredients. I would research the ingredients and I'd be like, oh, okay, that works for hair. Maybe that should be in here. And I've always been one of those people who had like dreams, visions, whatever you want to call them, that I felt like I had to follow. I always say, when God calls me, I make it my business to answer. So I started, just mixing things up. And finally I was like, this feels right. This is it. And I started using on my customers' hair and we just started documenting it. And they started seeing like tremendous results. I started seeing results myself. I never made a product to sell it. I only made a product to help my clients. And it was actually my clients that were like pushing me to tell more people about it and to sell it. Basically, they was like, oh, I told my homegirl about your product and how it's helping my hair. You should, she want to buy it from you. I was like, well, I don't sell it. And they was like, you should, because, it helped me. It's going to help so many other people. And that's when I decided, I said, okay, I'll put it out there. I put it on social media in 2015. I probably had about like 200 bottles and they sold out same night from the pictures that I was taking, documenting my clients' results. And from 2015 to 2018, I just like sporadically like sold the product. It wasn't something that I focused on because I was a hairstylist. That was my bread and butter. It was just something that when I had time to make some, I sold some. And then once again, it was on my spirit heavily to step away from behind the chair. And I ended up going to New York and I was sitting outside like on the balcony at my hotel. And I was just so like enamored by all the buildings. And I was like, you know what? Somebody had this vision that New York would be what it is today. And I said, if somebody can bring this into fruition, why can't I do what's on my spirit, what God has put on my soul? And I came home, I canceled every appointment that I had. I probably had about $10,000 in the bank to my name. So I probably had like 2 months to survive. And I was like, sink or swim. I canceled everything and I built a website online, and I relaunched my products again, because once again, like, they were still in demand, even without me giving them too much, thought,
Right.
or even pushing them. So the very first month we took off. We made like almost $50,000 that month, and it just kept growing from then. And I knew that that's what I was supposed to do, because making that decision once again brought me peace. And every time I choose peace over anything else, I'm always on the right track. So that's how we started with the serum, and it ultimately led to everything else.
It definitely sounds like a real spiritual journey, and you're tapped in with your discernment, like knowing when you're given signs. Do you feel, in hindsight now, looking back, I know you've mentioned the dreams and the messages, do you feel like even from before that, from childhood, there were signs kind of telling you that this was your purpose?
I think I would say so, because I've always been like very intuitive, very like you said, like in touch with it, but you just don't know what you don't know. You don't know why you're feeling these things. You don't know until you start acting and you start seeing the fruits of those actions. And then you're able to say, okay, I understand that now. So even when I was younger, I would have that, but no one pushed me to rely on that. It was always, you don't know what you're talking about. That's not good. And that you let that fear come in, and you start listening to other people. But once I stopped, letting other people, come into the force field of like what I was feeling, everything got so much clearer. And like, even to this day, like, I solely focus on the peace. Like, I don't care about like how much money you can make or anything, because I focus on the peace, because I feel like my peace is connected to my purpose, and I get my blessings from my purpose because I'm supposed to operate in that. You know what I'm saying? So to whom much is given, much is required. So I've always kind of been like that, especially now, since I understand why we're called to move the way we are.
Powerful. That's a real powerful gift that you were able to tap into early on. And I'm hoping people pay attention to that when they're watching this back. Now, you own your serum, what it consists of, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
No issues with that. And do you feel you faced any bias or discrimination when working to make the hair blossom serum 100% proprietary?
No, it kind of just fell naturally. What I did had to make sure I protected it. So, in business, I've always been green. I'm good at marketing. I'm good at being creative. But as, my business grew, I had to learn in real time. So when I ended up going to a lab to be able to, have them make the product, in bulk, like, I had to make sure like I had the right documents in place, had the proper non-disclosures, had everything in place so that they couldn't, try to take my formula from me. So once I did that, everything was always protected, and I've never had an issue with that at all.
Good. That's good to know, because, just as a Black business owner, you might feel that you're going to be met with opposition with certain processes in getting your stuff solidified. So that's good to know. And now, speaking of your business, you are good with marketing. And even just reading some of your coverage in Forbes and Business Insider, and seeing how you were able to tap into certain marketing trends through Facebook and different social media outlets, and even having like brand ambassador deals with the likes of like Jada Cheeves and different influencers. How do you stay on top of the latest marketing trends that actually bring in an ROI to your business?
I really study everything. And then when I'm studying, I'm not looking at what other people are doing to replicate what they're doing. I look at what other brands and what other people are doing to find out and identify what they're not doing. Because whatever they're not doing, I consider that as an area of opportunity for me to be able to separate myself from the competition. So like, I study everything. When I'm looking at other, like, big brands, I'm looking at their comments. I'm looking at how people are engaging. I always follow this pattern, and I always tell people, when it comes to creating content, I follow and create it like a little 3-part system in my head. That's think, feel, do. What do I want my consumer to think? What do I want my consumer to feel? And ultimately, what do I want my consumer to do? And I create content based around that. And then when I study what other people are doing, I'm looking at what their consumer is thinking, feeling, and ultimately doing. And then I identify what they're not doing, and I focus on how to create my lane there, because I never want to be template, and I never want to be what somebody else already is. So that's how I, manage to set myself apart from the competition and have such a good return on my investment, because we're putting our content out there in a way that other people are not, which ultimately makes us stand out in our field.
Yeah, definitely. And so when it comes to other business owners, I mean, I'm a journalist, and I've worked with different brands that people might, business owners might reach out to us to do paid advertising, or they might reach out to us to complain about an influencer that they paid for advertising and they didn't necessarily get what they wanted out of it. What suggestions do you have for businesses hoping to use influencer marketing to bring in sales?
I honestly wish I could, shed a lot of knowledge in that area, but we haven't really utilized a lot of influencers to this day. We've done it, in a very small way. But I would say to already know what you want and your brand voice. So therefore, when you're working with an influencer, you're not relying on them to, push your brand and be the face of your brand. You already know who your brand is, what your brand pillars are, what your brand voice is. And that way that influencer is being, the exact representation of what you want for your brand. And then it's ultimately easier too to get your deliverables met by that influencer when you know what it is that you want from them. So if I had to give any advice, that's what I would do.
Yeah, smart. Exactly. Because it's having that mindset of like, kind of, what do you want to get out of it? Because you can't just go to an influencer and expect they're going to bring you sales.
Right. Just say post this. Because then, if they're posting it without a lot of heart behind it, the consumer can feel that. They can see when it's lackluster and when it has that type of energy behind it. Like, for instance, when you see Jada and she's promoting for Jizzle, that's love, that's life. Like, you feel it. You know what I'm saying? You want those clothes. And I feel like every brand needs to know their brand voice. They need to know who they are and how they want to be represented so they can communicate that to the influencer. And ultimately, when you do that with an influencer, someone who's not familiar with your brand, you're making them feel a part of something and want to help you push that narrative in the way that you want so that, everybody's happy. So that's what I would say. And that's what we do when we do it.
So you've been actually transparent about your IVF journey, and how you were able to use IVF to bring in baby boy Chase. So what motivated you to actually start sharing your journey of, on social media? That's a bold step.
To be honest, I wasn't going to share because I was like, I don't want, it's one of them things you can't control the outcome, even though everything in my spirit told me it was going to be exactly what it was supposed to be. I didn't want to share because I didn't want to be let down in case, it didn't work out and people be asking me what happened. But then along the way, like, I got so inspired in like just being humbled in that way to have to do IVF to become a mom. Like, it made me want to share my story so that I could help other people. And I also felt like, once again, I was being called to do that. And since I've done that, so much good has happened from it. So I ended up creating my nonprofit, which is called For Mamas. And what I do is basically pick recipients to receive IVF treatments 100% paid for by us. And we picked our first person, and it's so crazy because she sent me a video today, and she's pregnant with twins. And like, that's one thing that's amazing. And I have people writing me, like, especially like African-American people, and they're like, thank you and your husband for sharing your journey, because me and my husband have to go this route. And a lot of the time the husbands are like, I don't want to do that because, it's unfamiliar territory. But once they saw my husband like being in it with me, it motivated them to do it. And I also have another lady, she paid for her own treatments, but they took the step because of us, and they're pregnant now. So I just felt like it was something that was just, I was supposed to do, to be able to help other people bring life into this world. Because every time we bring life into the world, that's somebody who God is using for a vessel for his will to be done. So I'm just excited, to play my part in that.
Wow, you're truly like an angel, That's so good that Because even with what you did for your baby shower, using your baby shower to give back to other mothers. Tell us about that.
So I always knew I didn't want to accept gifts. I'm not a big gift receiver. I like to give gifts. I don't really like to, just take things. And on top of that, I'm people say I'm not old, but I'm 33. So I consider myself like an older mother, and I had to do IVF. So it's been a very exciting process. I just wanted to be hands-on with everything. I wanted to pick out everything. I wanted to buy everything. Like that part of the process just brought me joy. So I didn't really want to be given a lot, but I also didn't want to miss the opportunity to accept for others. Because people were writing me and saying, well, I want to do something. And I was like, well, if I do anything, how about you still bring something for me, but I want to be able to gift it to others. And all my friends and family, they know who I am. So they was like very much on board with that. So we was able to get a lot and donate a lot.
That's so awesome. That's so powerful. And now I know you have your foundation and you're helping mothers who want to potentially try out IVF, but what suggestions or advice do you have for couples who are open to IVF, but they can't afford it?
Who are open but can't afford it? I would say, I really don't know, because that's like people's biggest struggle, to be honest. Even the girl who I just chose, this is her second time doing IVF, and the first time she shared with me how they had to sell their home to be able to do it, move into an apartment. So I would just say, just keep the faith. Whatever is for you is going to be for you. And with my 4 mamas, I'm praying to be able to bridge that gap. Because one day I want 4 mamas to be able to choose thousands of women every year to be able to do that, because it's one of the hardest things. Even for me in business, I always was planning my life and listening and following peace for my family that I didn't even have yet. Because I was like, early on, I knew I may have needed to do IVF. And I said, if I ever had to do IVF, I need to put myself in a position to be able to do so. But I think God was putting me in a position to be able to do so I can help other people be able to do so. Because when you don't have the finances, it's just kind of hard to tell people how to get it. You know what I'm saying? So the only thing I can do and say is that, I'm praying one day 4 mamas is big enough to help as many people as possible bridge that gap and make it possible for them.
Yeah, well, thank you for providing a solution. And that's a big one right there. Hopefully it sets an example, and other companies and brands and even sponsors can get behind you on that. Because come on, motherhood, that's a big thing. We need more life. So now for the last segment, it's called the True 100. I want you to keep it real. I want you to keep it honest.
Okay.
A little more fun questions. So now, what's one aspect of your life or business that you make look better on social media than it is in real life?
My life or business, I would say the behind the scenes. Like when I post pictures of like orders going out, oh, it looks so glamorous, right? Oh, all those orders. But in real life, it's the hardest thing in the world. Like I had the worst growing pains. Like I wish I could have went back and did it all over and slowed down. And I would say I made making $20 million last year look like it was great. But I would tell anybody, don't do that. It's the worst thing you could do. Like growing too fast is a real thing. Like I got so much flat for growing so fast. I grew so fast I couldn't get orders out on time. Right. Like I made a lot of people upset, what I'm saying, one more order, and it was like, that's the one thing I would say I make look better than what it actually is. Because at the end of the day, it was hard. It was really hard. It was nowhere as easy or as fun as it looked. But I'm thankful at the end of the day for the opportunity.
Yeah, you got it together, child. I put in my order yesterday. I had my email by last night with my tracking information. So I was like, okay.
Ooh, last year though, last year was not it.
But like you said, it's the growing pains. And listen, if there's one people that's going to let you know if something's wrong, it's Black people. They will let you know. So I'm sure they got you together.
All the way.
So now, when is the last time you had to hold yourself back from going off on someone?
All the time, every day. Like, I'm not in the warehouse as much now, because with my baby. So whenever I hear something that's went crazy, I naturally want to be like, "Yo, what the?" Then I have to say, "It's okay." So what we're gonna do to fix it? You just have to move on and keep it rolling. So every single day, every day.
I'm sure of it. If you had to battle a giant, what weapon would you use?
Oh, a sound bowl.
Woo!
Yes.
Wow.
And calm him down.
Yes.
Yes, a sound bowl.
You're gonna be over there.
Yeah.
He's gonna fall asleep.
Yes, I'm like, good energy.
Wow, that's smart. It says a lot too about your personality, your zen, the zenness. Okay, so now for the last question, what is there a mantra or a song that you live by?
It's two actually. The first one is your obedience is connected to so many other people's destiny. And what that means is I have to do what's put on my spirit and what God has called me to do, because ultimately that's going to lead somebody else to be able to walk in their purpose too and do what he's calling them to do. So I strongly and firmly believe in that. And then it's my motto and my mantra for my Dream Girl Society. And that's you can be whatever, you can do whatever you want to do and you can be whatever you want to be, Dream Girl. Because I always tell people to, really believe in whatever it is that they have on their heart and in their minds. And once you believe it, you can bring anything into fruition.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much. This was so fun getting to know you. And I can tell just from our conversation that anybody who has a business or is aspiring to start a business, just listening to this conversation, they will really gain from it. And is there any last, advice you want to give or last tidbits you want to leave off with?
No, I just like to tell people, like, if it's something on your spirit and it's something that keeps you up at night, do it, because that I always tell people, and I firmly believe that that's God calling them to walk in their purpose. So if I had to tell anybody anything, if something's keeping you up, just jump, because you'll make it. You'll find your way down. I'm one of them people, I always jump and I always land on my feet. So everybody else will too, as long as they believe that they will.
Well, thank you so much. Keep paying it forward. Keep being a blessing onto others. And you're living proof of what can happen when you just choose to just trust, believe, and go with the flow.